So now is our second question. On the Taiwanese side, the Kuomintang and the Taiwan People's Party, they are dominant in the legislative yuan, which is kind of the U.S. Congress plus Senate, right? And so now they have been trying to help China subvert Taiwan in legislative yuan, and which is a part of CCP's unrestricted warfare. So that is basically to prevent any policies pro the U.S. side and prevent Taiwan become part of U.S. allies, and also enhance the policies will make CCP infiltrate and grab the control in Taiwan. So what measures can the U.S. government take to stop this?
So I find it interesting that the KMT, or the Kuomintang, which was the party that fought the communists during the Civil War, and was the party that Chiang Kai-shek and his son ran for, I think it's the second longest dictatorship in modern history after Syria. I find it odd that the party that was so anti-communist is now friendly to communist China, and I find that strange, and I think that they would have difficulty explaining their reasons for being so pro-China to an American audience. Now, they could say that they're trying to make peace with China, and this is their way of doing it, and but the people of Taiwan don't trust the Kuomintang so much, because during the time of President Ma, prior to President Tsai Ing-wen, he did some things that were going to make the Taiwanese economy part of the Chinese economy, and the people demonstrated against it, had a big protest called the Sunflower Movement, and eventually the KMT lost power, and the DPP, the Democratic People's Party, got in power, and they've been in power for almost 9 years now. Two administrations of President Tsai and one currently of President Lai. So what the U.S. can do to the Kuomintang is to remind them that they have an obligation to ensure that Taiwan stays separate from China, and that they have an obligation to work as a democratic party inside the Taiwanese government, and to ensure that the budget assigned to the defense of Taiwan is unhindered by their actions. Now, they haven't tried to zero out the budget. What they've done is they've made rulings that freeze the budget in certain areas. Like, for example, Taiwan was going to build 8 submarines. They had finished one, and it's currently in trials. And they were going to build 7 more. And so what they said was they wanted to freeze the budget of half of these submarines until the current one is fully operational. So they're not doing completely trying to kill the budget of the defense. They're just slowing things down in many areas. They're also cutting the budget of some of the travel that the military and the Ministry of Defense officials would have overseas, and that affects the training that the U.S. military would provide the ROC military in the United States. So it does have an impact, but it's not a total impact. So the United States should talk to the Kuomintang, and both here and in their representative office in Washington, D.C., to have them explain to the U.S. government exactly what they're doing, explain it to the executive side, which President Trump is in charge of, and of course to Congress and the Senate, which allocates funding for Taiwan. So I think Kuomintang has a lot of explaining to do, and I think that they've painted themselves as a pro-China party. The other problem with the Kuomintang is that they've been meeting with the Chinese officials, some very high officials like Wan Huning, and who's number 2 or number 3 in the Politburo. So you have the Kuomintang meeting with high officials in China. You have them meeting with high officials in the United States, but you don't have the same with the DPP. The DPP has been boycotted by the Chinese government, by the Chinese Communist Party. So they're not meeting with the Chinese officials. They're only meeting with the U.S. officials. So it makes you wonder what exactly the Kuomintang are discussing with these high-ranking officials and what they're planning. So they have a lot of explaining to do. And frankly, if I were an American and during the Cold War, if government officials in the Congress or in government were meeting with the Soviet Union, not as officials but rather as party members, I would question their loyalty to Taiwan. To make a parallel. So the fact that they're meeting with all these high-ranking officials and they're not really being transparent about what they're discussing, I think this is not a good idea for the KMT to be doing this. Now, of course, it's their choice and it's their business, but from an American point of view, it's suspicious, and we have to wonder what exactly they're discussing and why they're meeting them frequently. They go there a couple times a year, so this is a big question mark. So their actions in the legislative UN, which is their equivalent of parliament, and their meetings with Chinese officials makes an American wonder what their true loyalties are and why they're doing it.
Thank you, sir. So based on your reply, I want to add a little bit additional information for reference. Actually, in the past few years, our sources in People's Liberation Army Central Military Commission have passed us a lot of information about the Taiwan and CCP's relations. I mean, not relations, it's actually how CCP infiltrate and control these people helping CCP. So basically, KMT, this is a big problem because though it looks like anti-CCP, and in the history it acted as anti-CCP party for a while, but actually our source said according to CCP's history in their covert document, it's documented that KMT and CCP, they are all founded initially by Soviet Union's Communist Party. So basically these are the two parties all founded in the Leninist style. So the style they control people, they develop their network and their kind of ideology, the essence of their ideology are very, very similar. But since KMT moved to Taiwan, and because U.S. helped a lot in World War II, help KMT to fight against the Japanese, so there are some changes, but still in the past, especially Xi Jinping's 10 years, CCP has already completed their mission of, they called it should return. They have this code name for their operation. And until last January, CCP, CMC, they have already admitted inside that they have completed this should return operation. That means KMT and KMT's assets, including their overseas resources and assets, already return to mainland China. So that means they get gathering together. They already work together. And so that can explain why they go to China so often, and also they come to US, but actually they work in a way that in favor of CCP and against America. Anyway, we can discuss it later because I have more questions to ask you.
I would just like to mention that just to reinforce point you made. I believe a year or a year and a half ago, the head of the National Security Bureau, which is like the FBI in Taiwan, he gave testimony in the legislature, and he said that he estimated that there are at least 5,000 Chinese spies in Taiwan. So that many spies is a lot to try to track and to discover. But he publicly admitted that there are at least 5,000 spies. We also know that almost 380,000 Chinese nationals have married Taiwanese citizens and brought them to Taiwan. So that's another 380,000 people that have potentially been compromised by the CCP and could be used as a means to influence what's happening here on the island. And in fact, there was one YouTuber who's being kicked out today, along with her family, back to China because she promoted what the reference term that you use is reunification. She promoted it on her YouTube channel in Taiwan, and the Taiwanese government has decided to kick her out, and her husband, Chinese national husband, and her children and her parents who came to Taiwan, but she was promoting this concept of reunification, quote unquote. So Taiwanese government is trying to fight this. It's not just sitting by and watching it, and it's a difficult fight because they have to fight not only spies, but they have to fight people in parliament who are compromised, or at least in some form or fashion have some connection with the CCP that's suspicious.
Yes, I agree with you. We see a lot of progress, especially since President Lai Ching-te elected. There are a lot of cases, and they have arrested a lot of Chinese spies, and they become more and more proactive, which is very good. And by the way, the lady you just mentioned married a Taiwan guy from China, from mainland China, and doing a lot of propaganda online to promote reunification. Actually, last April, in my the Voice of Dr. Yan podcast, and also in older media, we have already reviewed that her daughter, the code name is Little, nickname actually is a code name, is Little Should Return. It's also part of CCP's Should Return operation. So that's the part they use to try to enhance this kind of propaganda and recall people's nationalism according to CCP's ideology.